With half of the world in lockdown, I have taken it upon myself to record the book quarantine isolation review vlog that nobody asked for. I haven't spent as much time reading as I would like this year. You know, I set myself a goal at the beginning of the year. I was like, I'm gonna read 50 books by the end of this year. By the beginning of March, I had read no books, but that has all changed since I have been locked in my house. Yeah, there isn't really much else to do now. So I've just been reading, and you know what? I really enjoyed it. So today I'm going to talk to you about some of the books that I've been reading. I've got them with me right here, ready for me to talk about. But yeah, if you've read any of these books, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what you think of them. So please write me a message or leave me a comment to let me know, because yeah, I want to know what other people have thought about these. Sorry, there was a door just banged. Now the first book that I've got is Paris Echo by Sebastian Faulks, and this isn't actually my book. It's my boyfriend's book, and he got it as a gift for Christmas from his neighbour. But so we just recently moved here. I'm living in Liverpool in the UK now, and we moved here in September, and I didn't have enough room to bring any of my books, so I didn't really have any with me, and I hadn't got the chance to go out and buy any more. So I was like, oh, a book! So I picked it up and I started reading it. So I don't know if you can see this, but I don't think it comes up on the camera, but there's a little ring there where I put the book down for a while, and I used it as a coaster for my mug of coffee because I just wasn't reading it. And I think maybe this is why this is the book that took 3 months to read, from the beginning of January to March. An American academic called Hannah and a Moroccan teenager called Tariq, and they both end up in Paris somehow. And the story is told from both perspectives. So we hear from Tariq and we hear from Hannah too, and they have very individual, different stories, and their path only crosses for a little bit of time. Hannah is kind of bland. We don't really find out much about her. The main thing that I liked about her story is that she is in Paris studying women who lived under German occupation, and through Hannah we get to hear about some of the stories from these women. And I thought that was quite interesting. I just wish the book had focused more on the women and less on Hannah, because she just didn't really do anything. Now, Tariq is kind of more interesting. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. I don't know if it's Tariq or Tariq. He's in Paris because he wants to find out more about his mother. Now, as soon as he gets into Paris, he seems to forget all about his mother and all about wanting to explore and find out about her heritage. His main mission seems to be to get laid, or just to stalk these women. Basically, all I remember from Tariq's story is he meets Hannah because he's sitting outside her apartment, and Hannah comes to go to her room, and she's like, hey, what are you doing there? And Tariq's like, hey, I don't have anywhere to live. Can I stay with you? The man was outside my apartment and asked me if he could stay, you know, if he could come in and stay with me because he had nowhere to go. I'd probably be like, you know what, I'm really sorry, but no, you can't do that. Like, I'll give you some money, go stay anywhere else, but no, you can't come into my apartment. Hannah, on the other hand, she's fine with it. She's like, yeah, come on, come up, stay. Thankfully, he doesn't turn out to be a murderer, and they end up getting on. But even still, they don't talk much. It's still kind of two individual stories. Now, Tariq is obsessed with women, and he hasn't had sex in a long time, apparently. Or ever, I'm not sure. But there are several points in the novel where he decides it's a good idea to follow these women home. And he just, in the street, he sees women that he likes the look of, he just follows them home. He gets on the subway and watches them as they walk home, and he sits outside their apartment and watches them. I don't know, it was just kind of weird. After I'd finished it, I was just kind of like, on to the next one. The next book that I'm currently reading right now is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. And oh my gosh, I'm only about halfway through, but this is such a gorgeous book. Just everything about it is beautiful. James Baldwin's writing, I don't even have the words to describe how beautiful it is. I've never read anything by James Baldwin before, but I want to go and read all of his stuff now. Even the cover of this book is just, I know it's just some leaves, but I just think it's so pretty. My friend actually gave this to me because she was studying it as part of her English literature degree last year, and she really liked it, so she sent it to us, and I'm so glad she did because I love it so much. Now, I actually started reading this with my boyfriend. He was reading this to me, and if you can find someone to read this to you, or if you can get an audiobook somewhere, I would really recommend that, because this is the kind of thing that is so beautiful that, you know, it needs to be listened to. But yes, this is definitely my favourite book that I've read so far. The next one I've got is The One Who Wrote Destiny by Nikesh Shukla. Now, this was recommended to me by my local bookshop because I hate Amazon and I don't ever want to use them for anything ever again if I can help it. So I've been shopping locally because my library is also closed, so that's not an option. Now, the other book they recommended to me, which I'll talk about in a second, which is Two Caravans, was great. I loved it. This one, I was just not a fan. Now, I haven't even finished this yet. I'm just over halfway, and I don't actually know if I'll finish it. I feel really sad about it because, especially since I bought it, I feel like I kind of should finish the book because what if it gets much better? But at the minute, I'm just really not enjoying it. Now, this one is about a woman called Neha. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know. She's just been diagnosed with the same terminal cancer that killed her mother. Was this her destiny? She goes a computer program to find out, as you do. One that intricately maps out her entire life and the lives of those closest to her. Now, first of all, how do you do that? How do you design a computer program that maps out your life and those closest to you? So basically what she does is she designs this computer program that predicts how people are going to die. And I'm going to stop waving this about now. One of the big problems that I have about this book is that I just don't get how the computer program works. Now, the fact that she designs a computer program was one of the main things that drew me into this book. I thought it sounded like a really interesting concept, but as I've been reading about it, it seems like there is just nothing to this concept. That there is nothing that talks about how she designs it, or, you know, what she does or what it involves. It just says that she designs a computer program, and then that's it, and then we move on. And I think the characters in this story are really flat. There are some interesting parts. So the first chapter, or the first section, is written from her dad's perspective, and he's moved over to the UK from Kenya, and I think it's set in the 60s. It discusses topics like racism and colonialism. It talks about some of the barriers that he faced when he came over to the UK from Kenya, which I think was really interesting. And after the first section, I was like, hey, this is a really good book. But apart from that, I wasn't into it. The thing that made me stop reading was in the third section. So the first section is about her dad, the second section is about her, the third section I'm presuming is about her brother, but it's not told from her brother's perspective. It's told from another woman's perspective, and I think this woman is dating her brother. Now, her brother seems quite irritating. He's trying to be a comedian. It's not working for him apparently. But the thing that made me stop reading was when this woman went on a date with her brother, and her brother just splurged out all of his problems to this poor woman and kind of expected her to give him advice and solve them. And it just reminded me of all of the dates that I've been on where men seem to think it's some kind of free therapy appointment and tell me all of their problems and their hopes and their dreams and their aspirations, and they just sit and talk at me for an hour, and I'm just sitting there like waiting to leave. And that's why, you know, I was just reading this, and I just like, no, that's enough. That's enough for me, thank you. I might try and finish it at some point because I don't want to leave it a really bad review, but life is also short. So this one's a classic. It is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. I love Virginia Woolf. I've read a couple of her fiction books and I thought they were really good. I love the way she writes. Her characters were interesting. I just think she's really great. And I think this is kind of a classic, so I felt like I should read it. I started it about a year ago and I got a few chapters in, but I didn't finish it, so I think I'm gonna have to start it again. Yeah, so I know a lot has changed since this came out, but I still think, you know, it's really relevant to today. And as someone who would like to write one's own book eventually, I think it could be really insightful. But I think this is the kind of thing where I have to read a little bit and then I have to go away and let it sink in and do something else, and then go back to it and read a bit more. So I think this will take me a little while to get through. I'll probably read it alongside something else. This is actually a library book that we got before lockdown happened, so probably got a while to read it because I don't know when libraries are going to open again. The last book that I've got is Bullshit Jobs by David Graeber, and it's about the rise of pointless work and what we can do about it. Now, I love a good non-fiction book. Before this lockdown, non-fiction was basically all that I read. I think it's amazing how people spend so much time researching these books, and then we can just read them and get access to all of this knowledge in such a short period of time. That was a really basic thing to say, but I still think it's really cool. I think most of us have probably had a pointless job at some point in our lives. I know I have. And it's the kind of job where, you know, you're working in an office, maybe you're salaried, you're getting quite a good salary, probably, but you don't actually do anything, and you go into work every day and you just sit at your computer, and you know, the time passes and you do stuff, but at the end of it you're kind of like, what was the point of all of this? And I think that's probably a lot more common than we think, and this book talks about why that's a thing, how it's a thing, and why we accept it as a society and what we can do about it. Also interesting considering what we're going through right now, because I think it'll be really I feel like I've said the word interesting so many times, but really it will be really interesting to see how the world of work changes after this situation. A lot of companies are already talking about doing more remote work and giving their employees more flexibility, which I think is a really good step in the right direction. So yeah, that's what I've been reading in quarantine. Let me know, again, as I said earlier, if you've read, I don't know what I'm doing with my hands. But yeah, despite everything that's happening right now, I hope you're safe and I hope you're doing okay, and hopefully I'll talk to you again very soon. I feel like there's a lot of space over here. I've been trying to angle it towards my exciting wall decoration.